I had a
Mm,
full awakening 2004, a spontaneous awakening, and there's never a day where I don't feel anything. I'm always
mm,
feeling something. Now, somebody that's had a partial awakening, what happens is it's very common to have ups and downs and highs and
mm,
lows. Things could be happening on an energetic level where your consciousness is kind of feeling like, well, nothing's happening. There's no new movements and things, but things are happening on an inner level. That's very, very common because the consciousness is used to primarily the physical body. And when you awaken the body of light and you optimize the chakras by raising the Kundalini, then it takes some time for the consciousness to get used to the fact that there's these changes now on an energetic level because it's like as above so below, things happening on an inner level,
mm.
they take some time to manifest so that we can feel and know that these things have happened within us, that there's transformations. In most
Okay.
cases it's a gradual process. Rarely, and this happened with me, it happened with Gopi Krishna, maybe a handful of other people, that it rises with such force that it blows everything open all at once, opens this up. In my case, I was sucked out of my body, united with the white light, and then came back down. You're not going to die. All these fears are from the ego. The ego
Mm,
fears this process because it's new. And the ego knows that the more spiritually evolved you become, the ego's hold on the consciousness becomes less and less and less. So it doesn't want that. So obviously the ego is trying to feed fears into your head. Oh, don't do this. You're gonna die. This is gonna happen. There's a lot of misinformation because it's a very unknown process. But there hasn't been a Kundalini science that somebody developed like I did that gives you all the steps from A to B to Z where you can understand what's happening. The fact is that if you have the answers, then you know what's going to happen. You know how to treat the issues. You know where it's going. There was a lot of periods in my life when I was going through this where I felt like I was being burned alive, where I felt like I might not see tomorrow. But it was
mm,
all fear. It was all just projection of my mind. The Kundalini generates
mm,
a lot of heat in the body, which puts a strain on the kidneys. The adrenal glands are on top of the kidneys. And so the kidneys are in overdrive because there's a lot of heat, and adrenaline is activating the sympathetic nervous system, which is just making the whole body like you're just in fight or flight. That happens at peak hot points of heat when the Kundalini is really, really hot. And that usually happens after you eat. At the highest points of heat, when you think, oh my God, I'm going to die, this is crazy, guess what? Every single time it calms down. Okay. It calms down
oh,
because the Kundalini is transforming its state. So inside the body, what starts as heat turns into a cooling spirit energy. And that's that transcendental factor of the Kundalini awakening process. Because the purpose of this is to create a transcendence in the mind and to create bliss, to create bliss
mm,
inside of you. So your consciousness can experience transcendence and bliss. That's essentially it. But to do that, you have to get beyond duality. And
mm,
duality is inside the mind, and that's what's creating a fear because we live in a world of duality. And so, whatever you have inside of you that's not pure love is fear. It's fear based and it works on
mm,
duality. And the Kundalini is looking to purify that. It's burning through it. It's a very powerful force. If you combine Durga and Kali, Kali is a very destructive Saturnalian force. That's what the
mm,
Kundalini is. That's why Tantra, their goddess is Kali, because she destroys the old to make room for the new. That destruction can be very, very painful. But then Durga is this very powerful feminine force, which is the Kundalini Shakti in its fire state. Shakti is always transforming states. From fire, it transforms then into this kind of like watery type of energy, and then it transforms into this pure spirit energy. And that's what creates transcendence. The thing to understand is that when it's burning through you, there's ways you can help yourself. What I found is when you eat certain foods, they can be
mm.
really helpful, like milk. There is nothing better for the Kundalini than
Okay.
milk. Pure milk from a cow is the best thing for the Kundalini. Not almond milk, not any different types of milk. Milk. So I've had periods of time where it feels like I'm being burned, and I'll just run to the fridge and drink a glass of milk. And guess what? Immediately it calms it down because it's
Mm,
helping it transform. Certain foods help Kundalini transform, like carbohydrates help the Kundalini transform states. I have a lot of people that come to me that are vegans or vegetarians, and they have all these problems and they're feeling more fire. Oh, I have all this fire. And I'm like, you're not bringing the right nutrients. You need carbohydrates, you need protein. If you want a quick fix, you need a glass of milk. Water is not going to work. Water doesn't help in that regard. The Kundalini is a self-sustaining system. It's an energy that sustains itself. It doesn't need you. It doesn't need me. It doesn't need anybody. It wants to do this on its own. The only thing that we need to do as people that are going through it, we need to create a calm state of mind. A calm state of mind is all that the Kundalini needs for it to blast through whatever blockages you may be going through and to finish the job. One thing to really understand, and I tell this to everybody, it's a long process. I had a full Kundalini awakening, and it wasn't until year 7 that I optimized this circuit that I talk about, and then I reached a permanent state of transcendence. That's after a full Kundalini awakening. I tell people, get prepared for at least a nice dozen years of just this stuff happening. The Kundalini is a gift, it's not a curse, but it can sometimes feel like a curse because it makes living a normal life very difficult. But if you're persistent to work on it every day, and if you're persistent and you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to stay in society and try to have a normal life, then you can do it. You know, the good thing about my story is that I went through the worst of the worst. Gopi Krishna was the first person to talk about the Kundalini awakening experience from a personal perspective here in the West, in North America. He has about 10 books, and for about 20, 30 years, he was the main person that people were learning from. And I learned a lot from his books when I was going through it. I was going through it when there was no social media. 2004, there was no Facebook, there's no Instagram, there was, but it wasn't popular. So I had to learn it on my own. My experience has transformed this entire world for me, where everything appears different. There's light in all things. I'm out of my body. I talk about all these different experiences because I believe that every single human being is meant to go through this. We're all different cars, but our engine's the same. How you create a car is the same. Doesn't matter what the outside is. So the Kundalini and the human energy system is the inside of the car. And so once that stuff is perfected, then that car can run at the speed that it's meant to, and it can be optimized its function. One thing that I really am here to teach people primarily is to be brave, to have courage, to have an understanding that this is a normal part of the process, and that all you really need is a manual to go through it. And beyond that, you can do it on your own. And like I said, the Kundalini doesn't need us. All it needs from us is to be calm. Just be calm. When you're laying down at night, if you're feeling its movement, just calm down. I tell people, lay on your back. Always lay on your back. Don't lay on your side because the Kundalini can't move when you're on your side. Lay on your back with your palms stretched out and meditate exactly here. Always meditate here because this is where you are sublimating the Ida and Pingala nadis, where they fuse, okay, inside Ajna chakra, inside the brain, they fuse there. And when you focus on here, it allows these two channels to connect, and then the Kundalini rises through Sushumna. It fills up this head area, and then it starts opening these different nadis inside the head. And all you really need to do is just be calm and do not allow yourself to feel fear. Fear is absolute failure. It took me a long time to learn that, a lot of trial and error. And I found after a dozen years, there's just nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear, and whenever you think, holy shit, it's burning me alive, and you start hyperventilating, just drink a glass of milk and just calm down. And all of a sudden, it transforms by itself.